And we are live. So, welcome to episode 223 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here, and we haven't seen each other in a little bit, and it's good to catch up, man.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back, dude. It's been a while.
Yeah, we were supposed to do a live stream film review, and I really didn't have any enthusiasm for it. And so, yesterday I contacted you, and it was a small panel. It was just going to be you and me, and I'm just like, because sometimes when you get a small panel on a film, well, whenever you get a small panel on a film, it's more work for us.
Right.
For those that are showing up, if I can divide it between 4 or 5 people, which is tough to do with this channel.
Mm-hmm.
You get a variety of opinions. Somebody throws something out there. Like when we had 13 Assassins, we had Marty, and Marty was just in there, and he started throwing out all these different things, and we're like, oh shit, yeah, that's really, when he's not talking about, I don't know, the usual whatever that he's talking about. When he comes on, he actually has these really insightful things when he's not doing fuck. So I was glad to have him on, but it was 2 of us, and I was like, yeah, fuck that. I don't want to fucking do this. And then I thought of it today, and I was listening to Jocko podcast on the way into work today off my phone, and I was like, fucking interview. I haven't done an interview in a while. And I'm like, well, okay, let's see if he's filled the slot again, and you had not. And so here we are. I am going to be interviewing my friend here, Eric. So if you're ready to go, shall we get it going?
Let's go.
Boogity woogity. Now, you and I met when I first started doing all of this, so on and so forth. I remember trying to launch the first live stream and not being able to figure out how to use the software. I think I was using Stream. It was something, not StreamYard, but whatever the other one is, OBS. And I couldn't figure it out. And then you were in the comments. This was back at Nightwatch was there. I haven't spoken to him in years. We haven't spoken, but you were there back then too. And then once I think I tried it again, and I realized my upload speed wasn't fast enough or something. All these sputters, but for some reason, can you remember how exactly you came to be aware that I existed?
Honestly, it probably was through Night. He was probably, I don't know what you guys were talking about. It might have been Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. It might have been before that.
It was before that. It was before that. Yeah. I met him. I can't remember. Well, I think he was just in the chat, and we were somehow Alien Covenant came up. And maybe I was in Marty's chat or something. I don't even remember how. And somehow it was Alien Covenant, and we were both saying it sucked. But then I can't remember. You were just there, you were just there, and you don't worry about it. It's going to be okay, and and everybody that's trying to stream for the first time, there's this thin bead of perspiration on my brow, and
when you get frustrated, man, you get frustrated. I was looking. Well, my first guest spot was episode 16. So obviously, if it was before that, oh geez, I couldn't tell you.
You were there before the first. No, here's what happened. I remember that I was doing my first couple of maybe first 10 or 12 or something like that, or around the first dozen shows were Zoom calls.
Yes.
Zoom recordings with uploads, and I would upload every Saturday, and I think I was calling it the Horror Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this very, formal way of doing, welcome to the show, and this is, blah blah blah. And, hey, her, and I'm waving and kissing babies and shaking hands, and doing all this kinds of shit. And then I saw that people were live streaming. And I'm like, whoa, what is this? Because I'm such a fucking rube, and like everything. I always arrived to the party late. So here I was in 2020 or something like that, or 21, beginning of 21. January, and I wanted to, how do I do this? And somehow, maybe it was through Night Watch. You were constantly showing up for these, fumbling attempts of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I just appreciated it, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's been, now in its fourth year. Where you've been just, a regular you've been as much of a regular, you've been more of a regular than, half the people that, like Ryan or Bill or, John's fairly,
John's pretty
fairly
regular.
Steady. But you've been like the regular pretty much of the show, because I think you may be the biggest horror fan of them all.
Okay. Well, what brought me, like, honestly, what I really like about this show is it's just 2 or sometimes 3 or 4 guys just shooting the shit, or girls, Julia, we love you too. And that's what I liked about it. What I liked about it was how random the content was. It's not Halloween, because this is a horror channel for the most part, but it isn't majority. Like, it's not like the slashers of the 80s all the time. It's opened my eyes and introduced me to a lot of shit I've never heard of. So that was what I thought was intriguing. And, that just, and then I love the interaction and being part of the conversation. And I liked how this was just like, I say YouTube when we live stream, it's just water cooler talk. That's what it is. It's just 2 people saying their opinions about whatever the subject is.
Yeah. I started out wanting to discuss upper tier horror. And I don't like that term elevated horror.
I hate it.
I think it's just a bullshit term. I mean, all terms are made up, but I think it's just a bullshit term. So you don't have to transfer any sort of opinion or negative opinion about a movie that, isn't holding water.
Right.
It's not that type of movie. It's not elevated horror. It's that.
Yeah.
All right, and it's okay that you like it, but that doesn't make it good, which is an old theme on this show. But since this is an interview, and also a bit of a bullshit session.
Yeah, sure.
Without a fingerprint and a retina scan, tell the interwebs and the people out there a bit about yourself, your background, where'd you grow up, where'd you go to school. So on and so forth, as much as you're comfortable discussing.
Sure. Born in 81. I grew up, I was born and raised, I don't live there now, but I was born and raised in DeKalb, Illinois. DeKalb is known for 2 things. It's where barbed wire was created, and it is the hometown of Cindy Crawford. So you can decide which one's better.
Yeah. Shit. All right. Yeah. Well, that's a claim to fame. I wouldn't have mentioned the fucking barbed wire if it was me. No, I would have neglected that one.
And I've always been, if you knew me when I was in high school, Mike, you know how talkative I am now, just as a bullshitter. I was a totally different person. I grew up, honestly, the bullied fat kid. I've been big since 4th grade, so I didn't have a lot of social skills. I had my friends that I saw at school, but I didn't always go out and hang out with them, like not counting like birthday parties, Cub Scouts, that type of shit. And my mom got me into movies, and that was kind of a way for me to just escape. Growing up, and she's the one that honestly that got me into horror. She started me off, with simple stuff like, Beetlejuice, like horror comedies, Beetlejuice, okay, Gremlins, and stuff like that. And then as I got older, and it's funny because it was in elementary school, she decided to, hey, sit down and watch The Exorcist. Oh, now, it was the edited for TV version, because I was, but then it was still enough. And I'm like, wow, this stuff, like I don't know what it is. I've always been drawn to the spooky stuff, to otherworldly stuff. That, you know, and at the time I was also into pro wrestling. My dad got me into pro wrestling. You know, I remember waking up one day, and I think I told the story when we were on the first episode we had with Jay. And I just woke up and my dad and my uncle were watching WrestleMania 6 that one of them had recorded. And I just fell in love with a lot of these characters, the over the top shit. And then once we had characters like The Undertaker, or even like, I don't know if you remember Papa Shango. Remember when the Godfather was Papa Shango?
Sure. Yeah.
I really got into that dark stuff. So that really just helped my love of horror. And then just as I grew, you know, I got into comic books, so that helped with my love for action movies and stuff like that. And then as I got older, I just really got into films, and then the discussion of them. And it was just, you know, I am where I am today. And I've always been a lover of horror, but I'm a lover of all films, whether it's action, comedy. I think growing up, you know, watching Three Stooges and Marx Brothers and shit like that kind of helped my little smart ass personality, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And it's just been a lot of fun. And that's pretty much it. You know, my dad was a huge sci-fi nut. One of his favorite movies of all time was Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Okay.
And I still remember, like, when I would, you know, I moved out, but, you know, he'd always say, "Oh, you can bring your laundry over," type of thing. So he would, you know, we could bullshit. But whenever like Close Encounters was on TV, get out, I'll do your laundry type of thing. That's one of the movies like he would not want to be disturbed. And, you know, so I growing up, like, you know, and growing up in the 80s, it was just a lot of fun, you know, a different era. Whether it's, you know, Indiana Jones or Poltergeist or all that different stuff.
Okay. Let me back up a little bit and say that you know, the thing about this channel is that it's not that it's the surprise to me was that so few of the movies that I've covered, and I mean, we're at 223 episodes. So, I mean, that's probably 200 plus, you know, aside from some interviews and some random other things, 200 plus movies that I thought everybody talked about, that absolutely no one talks about, or pretty much no one talks about. So this channel has become like the best horror movies that like no one's ever heard of, or, you know, no one just bothers to discuss. That was one of the big surprises to me. And then, you know, you run into the person on occasion, you know, that says, "Oh, we talk about that all the time." Well, you know, you must be keeping it to your fucking self, because, you know, I've never heard jack shit. Right. Because sometimes I look and I'm like, am I the only one that's discussing Ravenous? Or am I the only one that's discussing Stakeland? Or am I the only one that's discussing, you know, I don't know, Lamb? Or am I the only one that's discussing, you know, You Won't Be Alone? And are you the only one that's actually praising Rob Zombie's Halloween films? Yeah.
You know, there's an example too.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, it's funny because for me, hold on a second, we got a comment here. This is from Neon Black Reviews. What's happening? Neon. How are you? And he says, new to the channel, just subbed. Hey, I appreciate it, man. We've been out here in our 4th year now, and just discussing, you know, rare movies that, you know, people just aren't talking about, whether it's horror or sci-fi or, you know, any, like we just discussed Takashi Miike's 13 Assassins. This week we were going to discuss the Japanese classic Ringu. Nobody discusses Ringu. Like, how the fuck do you not discuss Ringu? But nobody does it. Right. And so here we are. And, you know, it's probably me. You know, I would think, you know, maybe this is, you know, I'm responsible, you know, I'm the face of this thing. So, you know, I think as Julia put it, you know, I have strong opinions about things. So, you know, that can be off-putting to some people, but, you know, these are still fucking, you know, great fucking movies. And, you know, I don't tire of discussing them. You know, and so as long as, you know, and it moves at different paces now in its 4th year, you know, because sometimes I'm not, like, I'm at a binge. I'm at a point right now where I'm just binging a lot of, like, going to the theater. Yep. Like, I discovered the Regal app, so I pay $23 a month, and every movie is free. You know, so I can see a movie twice, you know, as many times as I want. So I'm enjoying a lot of that. Live streams are a little time consuming.
Yeah, they are.
You got to screen the movie, and then you got to sit here, and you got to, as the host, I've done this 223 times. Yeah. You got to carry the conversation. So sometimes you need a little break, and it's fine just to upload a 10-minute review on the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. The new Guy Ritchie movie, or this, that, or the other. Or to talk about Sydney Sweeney doing a nipple shot in a nun outfit, not knowing how to feel about that. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I want to watch, and then, I don't know, Father Anthony probably fucking give it to me in the neck, the next confession. But, that's the predicament I find myself. We're talking about the new Omen film, or, that the Pope's Exorcist has just been confirmed he's just been greenlit for another Pope's Exorcist film. So I'm hoping that, Russell Crowe, it has broken into horror, man.
Yeah, I never guessed that.
No, man, I love him as Father Amorth, because Father Amorth was the chief Vatican exorcist.
Okay.
Like the chief exorcist for the Catholic Church. So he's making these possession movies, but they're not extra dark and heavy. It's not the Black Coat's Daughter, or anything like that. It's, they're a little on the humorous side, because he's a humorous guy. And it's got this element that I think is missing in a lot of faith-based horror, which is the good.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just the depraved, and then more depraved, and then more depraved, and then more depraved, and then, the hero, practically turns into a werewolf, or the protagonist at the end to survive. And you're like, fuck, this is bleak. And it's good, don't misunderstand me, but it's nice to have that counterbalance.
Yeah, you gotta cleanse that palate sometimes, man.
Every once in a while. You need originality, you need new things to change up, and that's what keeps it fresh. Neon says, I'm okay with opinions. I mean, I still like Eric. So yeah,
Thanks, Neil.
We're hanging in there. We're doing our best. And but I mean, for you've been here, and I'm not sure how many shows I would have gotten off without you. So I appreciate you, man. I genuinely do. You and Julia are probably, and Marty are probably the three things that I take away from this. And for me, in every experience and social interaction, it's not a big, overwhelming wave of things, but it's a very few small but very direct things that I take away, or relationships that are formed, or friendships that are formed that that are lasting. So this is just a further extension of so many different experiences for me, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, dude. It's really been a pleasure. I didn't expect, honestly, when you reached out to me first. A lot of people say one of my biggest faults is I'm so fucking humble. But when people reach out to me, hey, you want to do this collaboration, you want to do this podcast, you want to be interviewed, whatever, it gives me that little kick in the butt to show that I actually do kind of have a talent, at least when, with words and talking like that. And I didn't expect to, I couldn't tell you how many episodes I've been on this show now.
Right.
After just doing, we did episode 16 with, the two Rob Zombie movies. And then I didn't do an episode for quite some time. I
don't think you came back until Rambo.
Yeah, we did First Blood.
Come back into First Blood.
Yeah, and then we did the Terminator, and then it just, you and I just started clicking. We built that friendship, and then we both have a good, kind of like I wouldn't say we're as good as like Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, you know what I mean? But we're good at shooting the shit type of thing, and it's been a wild and fun ride, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad to hear, what you're saying about, your mom starting you with horror, because that's what happened for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened for me. It wasn't my dad. And she started me with professional wrestling too.
Yeah, my dad was got me into wrestling. My mom got me into horror, and she's the reason why I'm the big Stephen King nut that you know. She gave me her whole collection when I was in middle school, like the stacks of paperbacks, and I've been a fan ever since.
Yeah, and it's still great to know that, even on Amazon you can find a cheap copy for like $1. Pretty much anything by King's now. And it's going, if it's not a great read, it's still for the most part going to be a fun read.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an important thing to remember. You have helped introduce that word into my vocabulary that I don't use. I wouldn't have used at all, really, and to remember things and to counterbalance arguments. And now I catch myself saying, "Yeah, but it's fun."
Yeah,
it's a fun thing, and I grew up watching fun things. I wasn't, I wasn't 7 years old sitting there watching, La Dolce Vita, or Lawrence of Arabia,
right.
Mom, put on the Fellini movie, give me the popcorn, that kind of thing. I grew up watching, when it came to horror, the Universal classics.
Okay.
That was my introduction to horror. Also, a lot of schlock, to be perfectly honest, because we had on the weekends a local Philadelphia channel that had it was called it was like a DJ or a VJ. He was called Dr. Shock. Bill would know who I'm talking about. Dr. Shock, and Dr. Shock put on a horror movie every Saturday. It was always you were never getting something high quality.
Oh yeah.
It was always some Italian Bloodmaster or Count Yorga in space or something like that. And then we had other affiliates, like Creature Double Feature on Saturdays. And then we didn't have Elvira in New Jersey. We had this woman called Stella. It was like Late Night with Stella on Saturday night. And that was a bit past my bedtime. I would be asleep by that. But there's always been an exposure to horror. But, Mom getting me started with the Universal classics, and then getting me started with Hammer.
Okay.
And she has this. She always told me this story about my one aunt. Her and my father and his sister, my aunt, went to the theater to go see The Horror of Dracula, which for many is still the quintessence. I was just watching on Shudder last night, 101 greatest horror movie moments, and I think like number 98 is Horror of Dracula or something like that. It's still considered like by many the quintessential performance. And they went to see it, and my mom and dad went to drop my sister off, who lived at the next house, and my aunt literally made my father go in the house and look around the house. But this was the impact that these movies were having on people in 1958. We laugh at it now, and I love to watch it now, but it scared the shit out of people. Like, you must think of what, like, Karloff, we've talked about this, what Karloff must have done in 31, back in that scene where he backs into the camera shot and then turns around. Like, people must have been losing their shit.
Dude, you go back to what was it, maybe 31, 32 when King Kong came out. People were scared of that stuff. Yeah. And it all depends on, obviously, the time frame that it comes out. Like, I was watching King Kong, months ago, like the original. My daughter was like, "That's it."
Very right.
Well, but that's how it was back then. You got to take that into consideration. But yeah, it was a fun time. I'm now getting into Hammer, but I remember growing up, if it wasn't like Stephen King schlock with Mom, or she was big into like possession movies and stuff like The Omen. My dad, like I said, he was a huge sci-fi nut. He was into the B movies, and this kind of goes with your creature double feature stuff. I knew who Elvira was. Yeah, but again, she was on too late for me. We had Svengoolie, who is still doing
for a reason.
Yeah, of course. A couple reasons why.
Yeah, two really good reasons.
But we have, and he's still going. We have Svengoolie, who is just this goofball Chicagoland character, and he shows the Hammer, not the Hammer stuff, but he shows the Universal stuff. But it's usually like the Abbott and Costello, or what my dad grew up. My dad was huge into the bug movies, like the killer bugs, like them, the giant ants, or
Tarantula,
or Michael Landon, and I Was a Teenage Werewolf. The
that
stuff
movie scared the shit out of me. That was a scary fucking werewolf with the teeth that came up.
Yes, he had like the underbite like a bulldog and stuff like that. So I had so many different angles and avenues, to pull from with my parents, and I fell in love with it all.
So what was, I guess knowing you, as I do, I guess your tendency was to veer towards that schlocky kind of thing.
Yeah, I think.
How did you become a fan, like by majority of the schlock?
I think honestly, the reason why is that's what was on a lot. I wasn't huge into horror, like big time, like into that stuff. It was my brother who he was young. He's 5 years younger than me, so we're gonna pick the movie at the video store that he wants to. Oh, this movie looks spooky and cool. Let's get the Deadly Spawn. I don't want to watch the fucking Deadly Spawn, but back in the day, you promoted those movies with the box covers. You know what I mean? Freddy Krueger looks cool. Let's put in. So that introduced me to that. Hey, this Friday the 13th, it's got a hockey mask and a knife going through the eye socket. Let's get that. So it's because that's what I was around. And I can also appreciate the fun factor. I can say this movie's pretty fucking shitty, but I'm having a blast type of it. It's like the effort put into it. Do you want the person to have a good time? And it is nice, like I said, to cleanse that palate. But it's just kind of, I think, because that's what I grew up with, if that makes sense.
We should also, acknowledge the fact that I'm 10 years older than you, that these sorts of movies also had an enormous amount of nudity and sex in them.
Yep.
Which were huge selling points. There were huge selling points. I mean, there was always gratuitous nudity, if not full nudity, then topless nudity. You had a lot of Playboy playmates, playing some B movie, scream queen. And I hate that term, but that's what they were. I remember that there was a movie about a woman and like her tits turned into monsters. And you would you didn't understand what the movie was exactly, but you saw this hot chick on the video box, and people don't appreciate today, how much thought had to go into a visit to the video store. It's not like today where you could just, pull up anything you want to pretty much at any given time. You had to drive, and then, once you bought it, you or rented it, you were stuck with it. So you wanted, unless you knew exactly what you were looking for and, got lucky and got it right away, because you all know that the hot things were never available for like the first couple of weeks. Because people were like living at the video store trying, it was you have 48 hours to watch it or whatever. And I mean, a lot of the selling points of those bad horror movies were the nude scenes, the sex scenes, and whatever else were in there. They were extremely light on story. The 80s were, this cocaine fueled sort of Hollywood, and the product sort of shows it, this sort of a lot of incoherent things. So when something came along like a maybe an American Werewolf, for example, not to be too on the on the nose with it,
right?
Or a Jaws. Or an Ridley Scott Alien. These were wow, like look at what's possible. Look at what's possible. I mean, just last week I went for the 45th anniversary for the first time to see Alien on the big screen, and it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to watch the sound editing. There's so many small sounds that you just don't pick up watching it on your TV. I mean, unless you've got like some professional setup.
Right.
But I think that, that was one of the things that keep these, things in our memory. And you look at them now, for me personally, I'm like, oh, Jesus, that was not good.
Yeah, it's, I mean, but the 80s, you're looking at, I'm 42 now, you look back at it, it's the period of excess, you know what I mean? So that's why it was a selling point of sex, drugs, and violence in those slasher films, and a lot of those times, those movies were geared towards people my age or maybe 5 years older. You're going
teenagers.
You're going through puberty. You want to see the nudity, or you want to see the violence and the gore. You don't give a shit about the story. You just want to see the goods. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's how I was. And I I think being a pro wrestling fan at the time also kind of fueled that too, because I loved these characters, but I just wanted to see two big muscle heads, beating the shit out of each other. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing about pro wrestling, and we'll get into that in a little bit, is that it's also a morality tale.
Mm-hmm.
It's good versus evil.
Yep.
It's good versus evil. And if good wins all the time, then there's no point in coming back next week.
Exactly.
But that, good is always sort of chasing.
Mm-hmm.
Always sort of chasing, the heel. The face is always chasing that heel, and always getting cheated, or almost always getting cheated. Look at Cody Rhodes, this sort of thing, perfect example. Hold on a second. We got some comments here. We got Patrick. What's happening, Patrick?
Hey, Patrick.
Mr. Dan.
Mr. Dan.
I saw it in the theater too, man. Yeah, it was fantastic to watch. I had a huge bucket of popcorn. They just brought caramel corn to my theater. So I mix it with the salted popcorn and got a big fucking vat of popcorn and just watching fucking Alien. And it's just so fucking good. By today's standards, that's an ensemble cast.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this great conversation at the beginning of the movie with Fede Alvarez and Ridley Scott, because Fede Alvarez is getting ready to drop his Alien movie.
Yep.
And he was saying, Ridley Scott was saying how he borrowed so much from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Hal and you've got Mother. There's so many of the shots. Once you saw a couple of 2001 shots that they overlaid into the conversation, and then you watched it, you're like, fuck, this is a lot like that Kubrick movie. Being unable to find an actress to play Ripley,
mm-hmm.
and then being suggested, having it suggested to you by Warren Beatty of all people. Hey, you got this girl off Broadway, Sigourney Weaver. You should check her out.
Thank God.
Making it maybe one of the biggest decisions of his career, mm-hmm. and the pivotal moment in her career.
Yep.
Which is just because she's just royalty. She's just royalty.
Yeah, and she's still going strong today. You know what I mean? She's not doing like a lot of the indie stuff. But she earned it. She's one of those actresses that put in her time, and she can afford to pick and choose what she wants to do. If she wants to do a serious drama, God bless her. Or if she wants to do a fucking, 3-minute cameo in a Ghostbusters movie, why the hell not? Or if
I love seeing her in Cabin in the Woods.
I was just gonna say it. Or if she's in Cabin in the Woods, or if she wants to be with Simon Pegg in that movie Paul, where she's actually hunting down aliens and stuff like that. She has the right to do that because she's one of my favorite actresses of all time.
Yeah, and she's got even though she tends to, and you don't say this about too many people within horror, she's got a gravitas to her.
Yeah.
She's got a gravitas to her, and that's you get the impression you're looking at a real actress here,
mm-hmm.
looking at her like the real deal here. This is not someone who screams.
Yeah,
this is not that.
She makes me think of someone like she's Meryl Streep or like maybe Michelle Pfeiffer. You know what I mean? She commands that attention, but she also gets that respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So all right, next question: how does all of this that we've been talking about for about 30 minutes translate to YouTube?
For me personally, I was never, my YouTube story is kind of like, again, my buddy was on YouTube and he needed someone to bounce things off
of.
Frenzy? No, this was my buddy Whitey, who's been in the chat a couple of times.
Oh, Whitey the white guy.
Yep. And hey, you want to come over? I started doing YouTube. I don't want to do so much of the political stuff anymore. Let's just have a little bit of fun and talk some movies. Sure, he just come back from Wisconsin. I mean, me and him have been friends. God, I've known him since I graduated high school, and that was in '99. And we started just bullshitting, and then I met a friend. We had a mutual friend named Roger. His channel is channel Dawnstar. It's still on YouTube, and he found us and he became a fan of us, and he's like, Eric, why don't you start it yourself? And I didn't know what the fuck to do. So I said, well, why not? And, I'm in my basement. I got my iPad up. This is a long time ago. I was doing it off an iPad. Then, you got transferred from the iPad to the computer type of stuff. And I'm technologically impaired. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And when you first start, your first subscribers are your friends. You know what I mean? They're not fucking watching. You know what I mean? They're doing it just, they're subbing and stuff like that. But I started getting subs from people I never heard of. Then I started getting comments from people I never heard of, saying, hey, that's a good video. This is a good point. Can't wait to see what you have in store for the next time. And it just, again, it was just kind of like what I was doing at school, years before, just shooting the shit with my friends and just talking about movies. And then that's what got me in, to podcasting or guest spotting on live streams and stuff like that. It's just, I love movies and I love talking about them. And it's just another way for me to just reach out to people, you know what I mean? Because I'm a homebody. I don't like to leave the house unless it's like, going to the grocery store or work or stuff like that. I'm pretty much in my little bubble. And this was just another way for me to interact with people and meet people and have fun. And, me discuss a movie I love that you hate or vice versa, and talk about wrestling, talk about whatever's going on in the world. And it's grown from there.
And so, I mean, you don't have any, and I guess I understand this, without even having to ask, you don't have any interest in monetizing the channel.
No.
Because you're over 1,000 subs.
Well, here the thing is, monetizing, yeah, it would be nice to get, 50 cents a year from YouTube or however they pay that. But the requirements are hard to get to sometimes. I'm not interested in doing like a Patreon. Like, people, hey, you want to do $5 a month? That'll, to me, makes it seem like if you're paying me for a product, that means I have to.
You're now invested. Yeah.
I have to push that product out, whether, Neil or Mr. Dan, if they're paying me $5 a month, I got to do Patreon only content no matter what. There are times when I just don't fucking want to do it. And I'm the type of guy, I don't want to talk about a movie if I'm tired from work, because who really wants to watch someone who's sluggish and tired talk about a movie? You can tell they're not in it, not into it. And if they're $5 is $5, dude. If they're paying for it, I don't want them to also, pay for garbage. You know what I mean? So I'm not interested in the Patreon part of it, because I want this to stay a fun hobby for me.
Right. I think in my 4 years now doing this, and then I had that recent blow up once I started to move over to wrestling. Mm-hmm. I think that this sort of proves what I'm about to say, is that in order to, have that kind of channel that, you can monetize and grow and, have expand, you have to have, I think, one thing. You have to kind of talk about one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be very narrow. Your focus has to be very narrow and very deep on that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's, a repetition of a particular type of horror, or, politics,
mm-hmm.
Where you're talking about politics, I'm sure politics will, grow like a weed.
Oh yeah.
If you're willing to, constantly, churn out the content.
Mm-hmm.
Churn out the videos, churn out the live streams, cover this, because something in today's world, something is always happening.
Oh yeah.
24-hour news cycle, whether it's, this is at UCLA, there are the riots over here and, riots over there. And you could, talk about that all day. You could go at it all day. Do you want to do that? Do you want to, like, when the wrestling video started for me,
mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk about wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I started getting all this feedback, and then 500, and then, 1,000 views, and then, 5,000 views, and then 8,000. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
And I remember telling you, I said, I don't want to turn this into a tabloid.
Right.
That's not what I want to do, because and especially if it's like wrestling, then I'm like, what happens when Vince isn't doing anything?
Yeah, like now. Yeah.
Yeah, look, here's Vince. He was walking and he didn't look that great.
Right.
He's 78.
Yeah.
You start to feel like a vulture.
Mm-hmm.
Like some scavenger. Trying to pick out awful things to talk about.
You're the paparazzo hiding in the bushes, taking a picture of like Uma Thurman taking her kid to school or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So, it's an issue of finding, I think, something that you can be comfortable with.
Yeah.
But then just, pounding out the content. Like these guys who just do not, that do nothing but hammer Disney all day.
Mm-hmm.
To boom, 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 Disney panics, Disney, losing, you're like, holy shit, and like at some point for me personally, it reaches a point where, and my opinion fucking counts. At some point, it doesn't make a difference if you have a good fucking argument. Like It's just so fucking repetitive that you're like, this is the same fucking video I saw fucking 4 years ago. You're just interchanging this series with this character, and you're like, who, like you, is that rage baiting or like, I don't understand how people can just constantly, like I listened for a while and I'm like, wow, that's a really good fucking argument. That's, wow, that makes this guy, this guy knows, but after a while you're just like, holy shit, it never changes. And then you realize that these people are stuck in like this cycle of like chronic malcontent, where like you're not even a fan anymore. You're like a critic.
Well, that's what that's why I personally, I hate it. Me personally, I hate saying when I do movies, I talk about movies, I do reviews, because I've never liked that, because I like to discuss films. When I say I'm going to review a movie, it sounds like I'm a critic. Who the fuck am I? You know what I mean? I'm just some schlub on YouTube. You know what I mean? With an opinion, like all these other assholes, on YouTube. And but I try to keep it fresh. But then again, like with you with the wrestling and how your things were boom, boom, boom. Or if I went into politics, I also need to realize, everybody's got a voice now. And some of those voices need to shut up. But with the internet, you can say whatever the fuck you want. Do I really want to deal with all these constant people, disagreeing with me uncivilly? You know what I mean? That'll just annoy the piss out of me. It might take the passion away. And kind of, with Patreon, like I said, if they're paying me, I don't want to lose my passion for this, but also there are times when I need my breaks. There, you know me. There's been times when I've taken months off just because I just don't want to get tired of doing it. You know what I mean? I don't want it to become this obsession, and then just not want to do it ever again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to be comfortable with the thing you continue to hammer at. Mm-hmm. And I guess these people are authentically hammering at or approving of, or saying this is great. I guess there has to be that authenticity there. I have this this thing that I talk about, but I guess the catch of movies that no one talks about is that no one talks about them. It's kind of a it's an ironic kind of thing. Hold on a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
We just got this from Dan. He said he just hit 500 10 minutes ago. Congratulations, Dan.
All right, Dan.
All right, man. That's good to hear. One for the good guys.
Good for you, right, dude. Man. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Hold on a second. We got Patrick. He goes, why did you go towards wrestling, Mike? I was pretty surprised by that. We were on the road to WrestleMania. Eric and I now probably exchange more text about wrestling than we do about horror.
Yeah.
And that's just, our conversation. But we had the road to WrestleMania. And then that story broke about Vince McMahon. And I just decided to do, I think if I remember correctly, I decided to do a relevant content video about Vince McMahon and just reading an article. And people just went, like, I didn't have to do anything really. I just I put it up there. I linked the article. I overlaid the article into the video so people could read it as I moved forward. And I gave a little bit of an opinion on it. And people went fucking apeshit. They went fucking apeshit. It's just, I don't want to spend all my time talking about sex trafficking.
Right.
And like, I don't want to do it. It's really ironic, but and maybe something else will come up at some point. And this I'm okay with talking about. But I remember talking to Eric after a while, and I'm like, this feels like a tabloid.
Yeah, it's fun. It's always fun shooting the shit about wrestling with you. But I think it started when you were doing this interview series and you were interviewing Jay, and you brought me on, and then it ignited you and me talking wrestling. And then the Iron Claw came out, and we wanted to talk about that, not just because of the wrestling aspect, because it looked like a good fucking movie, and it was.
But, this is and I've struggled, in my own mind with. How to organize this thing, and I still go back and forth with it, and I'm 200 episodes in, so that's really not all that many. You look at
right.
Somebody else was talking. I was watching another. I was listening to Jocko this morning, and he's at like 400, but he's Jocko, so he's like huge. But they were talking about Rogan, and Rogan's at like 2,200. He's like the 2,200 episodes. So you're constantly adjusting and figuring out what you're comfortable with, and something successful you may not be comfortable with.
Bro, let me stop you. It's like this. I've told you before. Why is it something like I'll discuss a really good film, like Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Why is it that video of mine only gets 53 views? But if for some fucking reason, Kickboxer 3, The Art of War, I discussed that piece of shit, and it's at like 5K views. Or Leprechaun 4 in Space. I Like My Schlock. That one's fucking dumb as shit. Why is that one at like 4.6K?
I think in defense of YouTube, you're probably more known for talking about Leprechaun 4 for your channel than you are for this. So the people that sub to you are looking for Leprechaun 4 and all these shitty movies that these friends of yours keep fucking recommending. That's your sub audience.
Okay, I get that.
That's what they know you for. So if you throw them something like that, like all of the people, I looked at my analytics, all of the people that were watching the wrestling videos were all new people.
That's how a lot of my stuff I've
nobody that Patrick or Dan or maybe they did see it. I don't know, but you look at the analytics and it was like 99% all new viewers.
Yeah, I mean I do get it, but there are times when I don't want to talk about that stuff. So I'm gonna pull up something rare, Frenzy. One of our bits, like during one of our final episodes, we were talking Eyes Wide Shut. We were talking to Nicole Kidman, and he brought up a movie called BMX Bandits. Derek's in the chat, yesterday's podcast. He knows what BMX Bandits is. It's a cheesy 1983 movie. It's like her first ever fucking movie. You know what I mean? I'd never heard of it. I wanted to discuss that just so I can discuss something different. You know what I mean? And that's why, I always say, I don't really give a shit about the views. BMX Bandits is pretty low, which I expected, but it was nice to talk about something different other than, Leprechaun 7 or Halloween 15 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was absolutely something I knew before when I was still doing Zoom calls, and uploading. I was like, I'm not fucking discussing Halloween. I'm not discussing Friday the 13th. I'm not discussing A Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't give a fuck. I'll have 2 subs,
right?
And just and rather than discuss that. So that's not something that's going to work for me at all. But you keep putting out the content, and that was another reason that I made the Shikon channel, because it's one thing. It's one thing. I've got a new channel that deals exclusively with foreign films. That deals exclusively with Japanese samurai films. I just uploaded the first video. It's got a couple subs on it so far. I haven't really advertised it. But I mean, that one thing that is narrow and deep, and that I can just really kind of go down the rabbit hole. This American Werewolf has kind of become, and this is what I've ultimately decided on, it's just going to be one-stop shopping. Horror movies and sci-fi movies you never heard of before that no one's talking about. Pro wrestling, some MMA, maybe some relevant content. I'm going to go see, whatever's coming out this month, the new Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I'll be uploading that kind of stuff. So, this is the fun stuff. If it takes off, that's fine.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, that's fine. But then, I have that one thing that is narrow and deep and, hopefully will remain enjoyable, but also grow. I'm not in a position where I'm going to say, well, I don't care if the channel grows. I want it to grow.
Well, I mean, I might have used the wrong choice of words, but again, you know, when I saw 1,300, I woke up that morning. I was pretty proud of myself. You know what I mean? You know, I've said it before. I'm my own worst critic. You know, everyone talks about how I'm a good, you know, content creator and stuff like that. It was proud. I was proud to hit that milestone, but I'm also like, well, you know, this video has been up for a week. I only got 10 views on it. I'm not going to let that bug me either, type of thing. You know, I do want my channel to grow, but I don't want to obsess over it. You know what I mean? Because then that fun hobby will seem like either a job or a chore. You know what I mean? And you don't want that. That's what this is. This is an outlet to talk about whatever and that's what I like about YouTube. Talk about whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. Movies, wrestling, fucking cooking shows, you know. Again, my buddy Derek's in the chat. You know, he's got a podcast that's all about nostalgia stuff that we grew up with. You know, that's his passion. You don't want it to become a job or a chore. You want to keep that going, that passion going.
I got to tell you, you know, I don't know if you remember Sydney. She used to appear on these afternoon shows that I would do from Cinema Cities. She has Cinema Cities YouTube channel. You know, she does old noir movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she loves. Old noir movies, and she's really gotten good with them too. I mean, like her channel just like exploded. She's like moving it like towards 40K in terms of subs. But you know, the one thing, you know, I think that's what it is. It's just one thing, and you know, just constantly working on that one thing, and just, you know, keep polishing your craft at it. Hold on a second. Yesterday's is here. What's happening, man?
That's Derek.
He says it's wrestling fans. What's happening, Derek? Do you each find yourselves becoming bigger fans of AEW or even independent outfits
other than
WWE? For me, I haven't really seen that much. I have streaming channels only, so I don't really have access to AEW. I'm sort of following it on social media. It seems like they've almost got an NXT thing going on there. With like it's not polished.
Right.
It's not polished, and they're being hamstrung with a lot of stories, you know, and drama. You know, and you've got a lot of 90s guys in there. You know, Sting just retired. Sting was 64, and he was like I think Sting was pretty much, you know, the guy like the banner, you know, the banner carrier. And now you've got Christian Cage and, you know, Adam Copeland. You know, these guys are probably hitting hard for 50. So my opinion has always been, I want the WWE to have competition. I want all of these. I want the tide to lift all ships. So I want AEW to succeed. I want the smaller indie promotions to succeed. Eric turned me on the IWTV app. I don't watch it nearly as much as I should. But there's a lot of indie stuff going on out there. Obviously, you can tell the difference in quality, but you know, the idea that there are so many people out there now, you know, who clearly love doing this, and that are trying to make it, I think is a really good sign for wrestling. I don't think wrestling has ever been bigger, you know, and so these OVW, you know, watching something like Wrestlers, you know, on Netflix, and you see what's going on with OVW, you know, and you know, all these different people out there. So. I'm watching WWE. I think they're in Paris. Is Backlash this weekend?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, I had no idea Backlash was this weekend because I am focusing on the indie stuff. You know, I got the ICW No Holds Barred hat on right now. They're having, you know, that's the deathmatch stuff. It's not for everybody, but they're having their air quotes final scheduled show this Saturday, and then he's taken the foreseeable future off. You know, people got to heal up and, you know, decompress and stuff like that. But I won't be there because it sucks because it's in Chicago. But I won't be there because I'll be with my daughter down the road, Windy City Pro Wrestling. It's just 5 minutes down the road. And you know my love for that. You know, you follow it too. And they've had, you know, Rob Van Dam has been on their roster once. They've had Eva Lise, who was in TNA and Lucha Underground. But then they've had all these up-and-comers. And the owner of WCPW, big time, he was a wrestler in the mid 2000s, I believe, for the longest time. But he's got a lot of experience. I mean, he's wrestled, Hawk from Legion of Doom. He's dealt with Sensational Sherry. He's done a lot of, been with a lot of legends too. And he bought the company in 2012, and he's been growing. Like his first show post-COVID was, I hate to use this term, was a failure because they had to switch venues, and literally his first show was like 35 fucking people. But he kept going, and now the last show we were at was in a couple months ago, and there was over 250 people packed in a gym, at the community center. And it's what I love about independent wrestling, especially when you go there in person, whether it's the deathmatch stuff or just the regular indie stuff, is you can tell when it's like a local, air quotes, like tight-knit family type of thing. They recognize each and every single one of you that's been there at every show, whether WCPW, because it's only in Sycamore, Illinois, or like ICW, they know all the fans that are going to be there when it's in Tennessee, or if they're doing a Jersey show, or it's always the same people that's going to be in the Chicago show. And you can really tell their appreciation for the fans. You know what I mean? They're taking selfies. They're just shooting the shit before and after the matches. When these guys are tired, they want to go home. You can, I love, like, the main reason I take my daughter is the interactions they have with the kids. I'm not talking about the deathmatch stuff. My daughter will go into one of those, but like these local guys, I love how a lot of times they're in character. You know what I mean? The heels are trash talking the kids, but the kids are eating it up. The kids are eating it up. And then like I'll give a shout out to one of my favorites, Alexander Moss, shit talking heel. I'm the best, that type of heel type of guy. And he knows I'm a fan of him. He knows my daughter likes to boo him. So he will shit talk her when they're like during intermission. And then he'll look at me and he'll smile. He'll kind of wink type of thing. Cause and then he'll go back to, making fun of the kids and stuff like that. You can tell that these are good people that enjoy what they're doing. They enjoy the interaction, and then they appreciate it. And that's what I think I really enjoy. I love going to these to see the kids get into it. The last show we went in, it was so many new kids that I haven't seen. They're yelling. These are kids like younger than my daughter. All right. And they didn't know the wrestler's name, but the wrestler and the bad guy was in like red trunks, and they're yelling, "Kill the guy in the red pants!" Beat him up, stuff. And it's so much fun. And you can tell that these wrestlers are getting into it and appreciate it. And that's what I love about the indie scene more than anything. Is you can tell this
fosters community.
It's legit appreciation. And I've, me and Big Time the owner, we just shoot the shit all the time. And it's not always wrestling related. And as I've said to him, and I've also said to Danny DeMonto, the owner of ICW, I said, this has also kind of helped me get out of my bubble. You know what I mean? And, I've now had wrestlers on my channel that I've interviewed. I've reached out to Derek, in the chat. I've had him on. So I'm doing these interviews. It's helping me reach out to people that I would never reach out to just to shoot the shit and talk. I walked up and introduced myself to a couple of the deathmatch wrestlers, Mickey Knuckles, who I've been a fan of for 20 fucking years. I finally got the guts to be like, hey, it was quick. You know what I mean? I'm like, I appreciate what you do to your body for our entertainment. And they're just regular Joes like you and me.
Right.
And you can tell that they appreciate the fact that you appreciate them. And that's, again, like I said, the community. It's super cool.
It fosters community. Hold on a second. We got Patrick says, Ouija Shark has 61 views, 8 more than the wrestler. That perfectly sums up society. So that's just about everything that's wrong with the human race right there. That'll explain a great fucking deal, Patrick. So
yeah,
seek no more. I scored Samurai Fiction about 3. I don't know what that is. What's Samurai Fiction? Hold on a second. I talk about the movies I watch, and 99% of the time, those are horror movies. Okay, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
That works. I'd say 75% of the movies we've discussed here have been horror movies. I'd say 75%. Yeah. It's just not ones that anybody else really talks about. So it never catches on. Maybe one day it'll, be something that kickstarts it. I think what also happens is that live streams don't necessarily, hit the algorithm very hard. I mean, unless you've got pre-established content.
It's hard, dude. I'm still trying to figure out the algorithm. Like I'll go through my YouTube studio app or whatever the fuck it's called, and it's your audience is usually on at this time. I'll post it, and no one will fucking watch until the next day.
Here's the thing, too.
It's all hit and miss.
I think a lot of negativity drives the algorithm too. So if you're shitting on something, that picks up.
Well, that
picks up traffic. If you're just doing something like like I love this, and this is why, unless it's sort of a niche thing, like Sydney with their noir movies, nobody wants to hear it.
Well, that's the perfect example. Patrick brought up a Ouija shark. That was me shitting on that shitty movie.
Yeah.
That people wanted to see me do like a. I don't like saying I rant, because everyone thinks that rants are funny. I'd like to, poke the bear and, shit on a movie if it deserves to, but I want to try to do it in an entertaining, comical way. Because I don't want to watch a guy yell at the camera for 30 fucking minutes. You know what I mean? I want to at least be entertained if they're going to be bashing a movie.
The only part of my channel I really want to take off is the IFC Midnight Show. You should do an 824 show. Have some decent movies to talk about for a change. All right, let's see what else we got. Can you please sign my thumbtacks?
Yeah.
Regarding your opinion on wrestling, there is something to steel sharpen steel, so completion can breed better product for sure. Yes. Competition can breed. Yeah.
Yep.
Good news equals 0 views. Bad news, hundreds of thousands.
Yep.
I've seen, I think the Critical Drinkers just made it to 2 million subs.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it by shitting on everything.
Yep.
He shits on everything. And you're just like, I can't.
Yeah. And as long as it's, it done in an entertaining way, I'll watch it. But, even sometimes that gets old. Sometimes I want a little bit of, do you like anything? You know what I mean? That type of thing.
And I think what I've noticed, and I've observed this, and I've discussed it with people before, is that I think they actually lose the ability to enjoy something. Like they've forgotten how.
Yep.
Like they've forgotten how to enjoy. So something is lost there that I wouldn't be interested in parting with. All right, here's a question.
Sure.
How do you handle, because we never discussed this ever. How do you handle the news? Are you a person that just because we're constantly on social media, or we're on YouTube, and so the news is never ending, and we've pretty much gone through one entire presidency, knowing each other, so on and so forth. Is this a thing that you just don't pay any attention to, and my focus is going to work, coming home to my family, and just, that's my channel, and, these things that I do? Or is it something that you pay attention to and just keep your opinions to yourself? Because, I just got out of Twitter jail for saying that the woman that Alec Baldwin slapped should have been punched. Or that I just said that I was okay with it. I'm like, 100% okay with it. She's trolling him in a coffee bar,
She was a bitch. She
just sticking a fucking camera in his face.
She legitimately said, "I will leave you alone if you say this."
Free, If you say free Palestine, I'm just like, what the fuck, man? So I said that, and somehow I guess someone reported me.
Yeah.
And I ended up in Twitter jail for a week. But what's your take? Is it just not worth getting into for you, or do you just not pay attention? I don't need the. I don't need the added headache. Ordinary life is, difficult enough.
It depends on the news. I usually avoid politics because Democrat, Republican, it's a shit show no matter who you follow. Sure. I agree with some things on both sides. You know what I mean? But the thing is, I never discuss it enough because I don't really care as much. You know what I mean? I'm the type of guy, the world's going to burn no matter who's in charge type of thing. But if I might be interested in what you have to say, if it, say your caption catches my eye, but I do follow the news if it's movie related. I want to know, I'm not
entertainment.
I don't give a shit about the Kardashians, you know what I mean? But hey, if this celebrity did this, type of thing, and it's relevant, the Alec Baldwin situation with the gun and stuff like that, I'll be interested in that because, we've talked about it. You can separate the art from the artist. Right. I may not like Alec Baldwin as a person. I personally think he comes off as a smug asshole, and not in that fun, likable way, because you can be a smug asshole and still be, kind of fun and loving. But I think he's a tremendous actor. You know what I mean? He's a fantastic actor for a fucking reason. So, news-wise, I am, I'll go towards more the entertainment stuff. Politics, you got to really draw me in to even give a shit, because I'd rather go fucking watch wrestling than hear what Trump or Biden or whoever 10 years down the road has to say. You know what I mean? Because to me, that stuff doesn't matter. I'd rather enjoy myself than realize how, air quotes, bad the world is right now.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Mm-hmm. And probably healthier.
Yeah.
Probably healthier. When I originally, I started to think about doing a channel that was about politics. But then I figured, shut up, you stupid dog.
See, everyone's got an opinion. See?
Yeah, well, it was just, I figured that's going to give me stomach cancer.
Yes, it's my Whitey. He used to do nothing but politics, and he kept getting flagged. You know what I mean, for air quotes hateful content, and B, he got tired of, it's like you said, it's like a cancer, and he stopped doing it for a while, and me and him kind of lost touch because he was so busy working the night shift, and then he was over one day, because he had a fucking night off for one night, and he's like, I'm done with politics. He's like, and I feel so much better. So I mean, but some things that's people's jams. Like, that's why I unfollow so many people. I don't give a shit if you talk politics on any feed. That's your feed. You're right.
That's your feed. Yeah.
Say what you want. But if that's all you talk about, it makes me wonder. There's something not quite right going on at home or something like that. If that's every single thing that you post about, how was your day? Nope, I want to trash this guy because he said this, or all that stuff. Poking fun is one thing, but like just constantly, every hour on the hour posting this and that and this about politics, it's too much.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to pay attention, but I want to pay attention because I want to see what's going on.
Right.
And so how do I do that? I kind of have to look. It doesn't keep me up at night. I sleep like a fucking log, but I mean, I want to look. I want to know. I don't need to discuss it with everybody. I got a couple of people that I discuss it with, this, that, and the other, and they're into the same thing. So, that works out fine. But that leads me into the next thing, which is just social media in general. Mm-hmm. And I heard someone say today that I think they said this. I think it was Andrew Huberman. He was on Jocko, and he was saying that he interviews a number of like psychologists and psychiatrists, and like from 3 different psychiatrists. The general opinion was that social media was basically borderline, almost like borderline personality disorder. And so I went to look up, what that means, which is interesting. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can, bring this up a little bit. And it basically is like emotional instability. And I'm like, yeah, this is kind of accurate. Intense emotions that last from hours to days and can change quickly. Impulsivity. This sounds like social media. Acting without thinking about it first.
Yeah.
Unhealthy self-image. The internet is fucking replete with unhealthy self-image because, that is a virtue now. Self-loathing. Difficulty trusting people, sure. Yeah. And irrational fear of other people's intentions.
Yep.
Unstable relationships. Strong up and down relationships with family and friends that can go quickly from very close to anger and hatred. Fear of abandonment, intense anxiety when people fear rapid change in values. Seeing things in terms of extremes and quick changes in views of people. And then you got self-harm, and then other symptoms, feelings of emptiness, uncertainty about identity, and anxiety. And it's just, I think people don't realize that social media is not reality. It's a virtual reality. But I think people get lost in this virtual reality.
See, I've always said, I've always said social media isn't the problem. It's just some people shouldn't be on it because they can't handle it properly. You know me, Mike. I've always said this. I've said it many times on your channel and other channels. Civil conversation is dead. You know what I mean? You can't have a difference of opinion and not get into a fucking fight over it. And granted, sometimes if it's through text, you can misinterpret stuff. That notwithstanding. But I've always, people throw out the term keyboard warriors because it is tough guys behind, a keyboard or a screen, and they can talk shit and they'll have nothing happen to them type of thing. Or if they get booted, they can just create a new fucking profile. I've always said social media is kind of like that scene in Reservoir Dogs when Lawrence Tierney is giving out everybody's name. You're Mr. Blonde, you're Mr. White, you're Mr. Brown. Why am I Mr. Pink? Because you're a what type of thing. Right. Well, Mr. Brown's like Mr. Shit. Can't we pick our own names? And this is what I'm saying is like, no, because we did that once. Everyone wants to be Mr. Black, and since you don't know each other, no one's gonna fucking back down. That's how social media is. No one knows each other, so let's just get in each other's faces and say the worst fucking things in the world. Like
with no accountability no accountability, really.
Yeah, there's vile things just being thrown out there, and I've dealt with that myself. And I'm just like, wow, you're really going to insult me just because I think Halloween 5 is a piece of shit? Really? Who's the one with the problem? The guy who thinks a movie is shitty, or the guy that's getting pissed off at some overweight, bearded guy drinking beer and discussing a fucking slasher movie that's 20 years old? Who's the one that shouldn't be on social media? You know what I mean? That's how I look at it.
Everybody has... especially on X, if you're willing to pay, you have an equal voice with, pretty much everyone else.
Right.
And so everyone has become everyone has become a SME, a subject matter expert.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not.
Right.
Especially, and I guess I was going to ask you from going to, pro wrestling, how am I going to convince you to become an MMA fan?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a whole other can of worms.
Oh, I've seen some of the conversations you've had on X, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
it's just a fucking opinion. Who cares?
But what you realize is that most of them are kids.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are kids. And like these local MMA bros.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, okay, like I can't take this very seriously. Yeah, the way they go after like other fighters, and it's like some 19-year-old kid. And you're just like, okay, we're not gonna.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's everyone's got a voice on social media, and sometimes people just need to shut the fuck up because the social media can be good. Like I found my sister from like my dad's first marriage. I knew she existed. We knew each other when we were young. And then I was going through some troubles with my own family. I just said, fuck it. I'm going to see if she's on social media. I found my sister on social media after not having a relationship with her for 25 plus years. We are the bestest of fucking friends right now. You know what I mean? And that's what you do it for. Or you want to post fucking funny cat memes or send the shit that you and I send to each other. That's what social media is about, making YouTube videos. If you're going to argue like what Derek just posted about, I'm wearing the Monster Squad t-shirt. He did an episode on the Monster Squad around Halloween time last year. And one of his friends was upset because he didn't really like the fucking movie. Well, you can't please everybody. You know what I mean? But if you're a podcaster, you have to, and people are interested in your content, you got to be honest. You know what I mean? You can't please them all. But if you're going to get like, I love the Monster Squad. I listened to that episode. Was I disappointed that Derek and the rest didn't like it? Yeah. I'm not going to fucking lose my shit and, message him and say, you asshole, this is the best Dracula on screen type of thing. It all depends on the personality of the consumer and how they handle it. And a lot of people just really shouldn't fucking be on social media because they're not that type of person. They're always confrontational. And that shows that there's something else there. You know what I mean? With that person.
Yeah, I think people need to get out and touch grass a little bit more.
That's why I've even said that. I every now and then, when everybody's at each other's throats, you've seen I'll make the videos and stuff like that. Don't be an asshole. Or when Halloween Ends came out, you literally had people, dumb shits, threatening people because they liked Halloween Ends or they hated Halloween Ends, and I'm just like, wow, Go read a book. Go get laid. Go take a walk.
Yeah.
There's better things to do than argue over a stupid fucking Michael Myers movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather do something more productive, or, I can rant like the best of them, but I'd rather do something more productive than have my life be consumed about because some jerk hated a movie that I really liked.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is sort of borderline.
Yeah.
Where these people just don't. I don't know. Every once in a while, I have fun trolling people too. So I'm guilty of it too. I love trolling. I love trolling Black Twitter. I love trolling Black Twitter. That is just. But I mean, you say something so profoundly fucking stupid, and I'm just
there is Poking the Bear, or Marty's in the chat, taking the piss, as he would probably say. How you doing, Marty?
What's up, Marty?
There's that. But then there's being just a fucking asshole. There is a difference. You know what I mean? Some of these people deserve to be kicked in the mouth on Twitter because of the thing they're saying.
There's a lot of mean and cruel and pointed things. And that's before you even start to get into there's a lot of really dark stuff out here.
Look at the situation when you were talking the wrestling. The Rock's daughter getting death threats over something. What the fuck? Come on.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Those people do not deserve to have a computer or a phone in front of them that has internet access.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. And, that's the thing that has probably made me appreciate the small sort of groups. Mm-hmm. Because I've just determined, we have this discussion all the time. Most fan bases are just douchebags.
Yep.
They're just entitled, opinionated douchebags. And, you have these things, a year. Social media has been great for some things. It was great when I was overseas. I could keep in touch with my friends, so on and so forth. But it's also very douchey in the sense that, something comes a year before something is even released. This movie's going to suck. And, this sucks and don't watch this. And there are so many people out there that are just followers that they just fall for it every time.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
It's a very strange thing. It's very bizarre. And I think a lot of, like you said, people that are missing something.
Mm-hmm.
People that are just like missing something. And you just,
I just tend to just cut those people out. I'll still be friends with this guy, but I'm not going to follow him on Twitter if all he does is complain and rant and this and that. We all do it, but if that's all it is, I'm gone. You know what I mean?
Hold on a second. Patrick says, I troll him with these A24 comments. It's only because they're true, Patrick. It's the only reason I do.
But see, that's the thing. That's fun stuff. That's fun poking the bear. Me and Patrick, we're always picking on each other. And there's lots of times you like to give me shit because when I do watch the schlock, you'll see I'm watching some dumb fucking movie like Rivers of Darkness. And all I will get is like a frowny face, in response on Twitter. That's what we do. That's how you troll people. You do it to your friends to just pick on people, pick on your friends and have fun.
So Marty says, I got called a bundle of sticks for saying I didn't like Halloween Kills, and I told the guy's mother didn't think so, and he lost his shit.
Exactly my point, man.
I'm so glad not to be, like everyone's. Well, what my interactions with the horror community have been like. I mean, now they just, we kind of don't exist for each other.
You got blocked because you. What was it? Someone took his girlfriend, or she took her boyfriend to audition for their anniversary.
They went for I love how people think that they're being edgy and they're just being stupid. Mm-hmm. And so this girl was saying that she was taking her boyfriend for Valentine's Day to see Takashi Miike's audition. It was the first time he's seen it. So my response was, "Why? Do you want to break up? I mean, like, who the fuck does that? Like, what the fuck?" And I think she called me a creep or something like that, and then she blocked me.
Yeah.
So, my track record with the horror community has been less than stellar, but I'm proud of that. So, because I don't give a fuck. But,
and you shouldn't. You shouldn't,
No, why would I? I don't know. Is there anything that we have not discussed that you would like to get into?
Not really, but I will say it was kind of cool that you just wanted to reach out, because we've never actually sat down, just shot the shit, you and I. It's usually like a 1-year anniversary, celebration and stuff like that, or we've done random live streams together, but we've had a group of people, like Ryan or John or Bill will be with. It was just kind of fun, just out of the blue. Hey, I'm going to interview you, but you know what? Let's just shoot the shit. So, I mean, it was a lot of fun tonight, and I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, same here. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And this thing that we do here, it's small, and that works because the titles we talk about aren't big titles necessarily. So, if I can expose 1 or 2 or 3 people to these titles, that's a win for me. Yeah. That's a win for me. If we can talk about, Lamb or, Darkness Falls. Not Darkness Falls. What was that movie? The one with Kevin Durant, where he's the sheriff.
And they were dealing with the
monsters out in the woods. Or if we could talk about like Ginger Snaps Back.
Yeah, or I Trapped the Devil. Or
I Trapped the Devil. I mean,
Devil's Candy. The Devil's Candy. I never even knew that movie existed until you wanted to talk about it.
So, sometimes things are cooler when they're small. Mm-hmm. When they remain small, they remain cool. Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm still at midnight. Well, I got Werewolves Within out to you guys, and I Trapped the Devil. So I was able to divulge a bit here and there. Not the other Lamb. No, not that. I love getting folks. Man, I really liked having you on for Takashi Miike's on there. That was fantastic.
And see, that's one thing I want to kind of give you.
Hey, Patrick, how about no?
Yeah. One thing I want to kind of give you praise for is I've met some really cool people on this channel. Me and John, I love John because he's very fun and opinionated. Bill, I love him. What I like about Bill is he's got his opinions. He's stubborn, but he also is kind of funny in that kind of way. But I've known Marty before I knew you, but I've gotten to know Marty more because he's collaborated with this channel, and that's been a lot of fun. Julia is so much fun because she didn't give 2 shits either. I never would have met her if it wasn't for doing collabs with her on this channel. So, and
don't forget Rod.
You know what? Rod is over 50. I love Rod to death. I can't just shit on him for Children of the Corn because it was also his idea for Interview with the Vampire.
Rod is not what you consider a horror fan. So he just pulls out the titles that he thinks, are relevant and, so on and so forth. So he always gives his best, and I got to get him back. I love Rod. He's
one of my best memories. The movie was shit, but one of my best memories, just because it was fun, concept-wise.
Thanks, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Night, Derek. One of my best experiences here was me, you, and Rod. And I was the token white guy because we were discussing Blackula. One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
As bad as that movie was, I thought, first off, the concept was fun. You know what I mean? I think it was during February. So it's Black History Month. You have 2 black guys and a white dude discussing Blackula. And we're all trashing the movie. But it was fun. It was such a fun conversation. So I have a lot of fun memories being on this channel.
I think that, that was the time Rod was working on Black People Time, and he showed up like 15 minutes late, and then his email wasn't working. His email wasn't working. This really is Black History Month. All right, all right. Some real fucking bullshit. Mm-hmm. Well, my thanks. Plug something.
Sure. Social media. Hey Internet Eric here. I'm that on Instagram. I'm that on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. But you can follow me at movies_beer365. And the YouTube channel is Hey Internet Eric here. It's just me shooting the shit, just talking about movies. The plan for this year on my channel is movies I have never seen. That's all I'm going to discuss this year, unless someone requests me to talk something that I've already seen. But and this past month, let me pull it up. This past month, Frenzy is my friend. If you don't know, because we mentioned him a few times, I did a podcast with him called Two Bearded Losers, and it was a lot of fun because, Mike, you've seen a few of our live streams. We didn't really agree a lot, but we always had, and I'm very proud of like a lot of the conversations we had. So the audio for Two Bearded Losers is still out there in the ether. You can go and download it and listen to it. I do have a playlist of some of our live streams on my channel. Hey, Internet Eric here. So that would be appreciated. And it was just a fun time. But his birthday was in April. So I wanted to do movies. Frenzy was either surprise I had never heard of, never seen, all that stuff. So I discussed, BMX Bandits, but I also threw in there The Invisible Man from 2020. I discussed, I'd never seen Willow at that time. I finally sat down and watched Willow and Adaptation, the Charlie Kaufman movie, and stuff like that. So it's a fun time. It's an interesting time. So yeah, it's just, Hey Internet Eric here, and the rest of the year movies I've never seen, and I'm getting back into my interview series. I've done like 4 or 5 of them. I've interviewed pro wrestlers, Gavin Alexander and Madman Pondo, Derek from the Yesterday's podcast. We did an interview together, and I'm finally getting back into it. I just scored I'll say it here, Eric Fallon, professional wrestler. We'll be discussing. Just having a sit down interview. Mike from the Graveyard Shift podcast, and I've got some other feelers out there. So getting back into the interview series too.
Okay. And the link to Eric's channel is in the description. And I'll also put a link up for your X profile so people can catch you on there too.
All right, cool. Appreciate it.
Some subs. For this channel, go away. Hallmark movies.
Oh, Patrick put that because once a month I'm on his channel discussing Hallmark movies.
Don't ask me. Yeah. Okay. That's up to you. For this channel, we will continue to just do what we do. Mm-hmm. We'll have relevant content. So I'll be catching new movies in the cinema houses and uploading a review. Usually the weekend of, I would say I try to catch them, while the tide's still moving on it. And then we'll be doing the occasional live stream. Whether it's a movie review or like we were going to do Ringu this week, but decided to kick the can on it. I think I'm going to be picking up also with some more interviews, cool. So on and so forth, and see what happens from there. Mm-hmm. On another note, related, I have started a second channel. Mm-hmm. And it's not a backup channel that has anything to do with American Werewolf. I have started a channel which covers a specific type of film that I love, which is the Japanese samurai film. And so that is called Shiken, Spirit of the Samurai. So there it is right there, YouTube/@Shikon, SHIKON channel. And I just put my first video up day before yesterday.
Okay.
It dropped at noon yesterday. It dropped at noon yesterday.
Okay.
Which is 1962's Shinobi no Mano #1. Shinobi no Mano is a series of 8 films. Mm-hmm. And this is the first one called Band of Assassins, which is just if you were a fan of the recent series and the hit phenomenon Shogun, a lot of people don't realize that there is just a shit ton, an entire library of classic samurai films that are just completely story driven, also with good action, because that's what samurai films are. They're mostly morality tales, kind of like the American Western. Mm-hmm. They're not spaghetti-ish like the Run Run Shaw Chinese kung fu movies. These are just fantastic sort of epics, every single one of them almost. And I'm going to be reviewing those movies. I think I might do all 8 of the Shinobi no Mano series because I'm lucky enough to have the entire collection on DVD. But I'm going to drop real quick here, if you'll indulge me for about a minute, the intro video that I set up with the help of my friend Josh Sager, who created the music for this channel. Also created a nice little jingle for me for Shiken. I sent him a request as to what I was going to be doing and managed to put this together.
That was awesome with the headphones, dude. That was really good.
Josh really threw that together for me in like a day. Like I asked him, I said, I'm going to do this because Josh is like my martial arts teacher. Okay. And I was like, can you do this? And he's like, yeah. He's like, all right, sure, no problem. And then the next day, he's like, this is what I came up with. And I'm like, fuck, this is fucking awesome.
He did that in a fucking day. That's awesome.
He did that in a day. He's a really great musician. So if you consider Shikon channel is there, I will be uploading weekly. So I'll probably be doing the next Shinobi no Mano within the next couple of days, getting that video up there called Vengeance. I think it's the second movie. They're quite intricate, so consider giving it a sub. I'll probably put a link to Shikon channel also in the description. Hold on a second. We got some more comments here, and then we're going to start to wrap this up, I think. Eric, are you still doing? Oh, Eric, you're still doing the Relic.
Yes, sir. I will be discussing that specifically for Marty. Yep.
Okay. Shogun was so good. It was funny watching all the folks bitch about no big epic. Yeah, I know, assholes. People were complaining the fucking Garden of Eden. Mike, will you do the Lone Craft, the Lone Wolf and Baby Cut? No, I don't think so. And there are a couple of ones that I won't cover, like the Hanzo the Razor series. They're just too fucking weird. I did like Baby Carded River Styx. So maybe at some point, but I don't know. It's not on my priority list right now. Yeah, thank you, man. I'll tell Josh you said so. I just let him know that I finally got the channel up and running with a video. And he's like, oh, that's fucking great. I'm on vacation, but as soon as I get back, I'm going to start linking it up and because he has a page for his music too, and he can show that, it's being put to some use.
Very cool.
All right. I think this is as good a place as any to bring this to a close. My sincere thanks to Eric from Hey Internet, Eric here. My thanks to everyone here in the chat. Eric, I'll be in touch, of course, with Evan. We'll be getting together soon.
Oh, yeah.
Doing a review or, something like that real soon. So American Werewolf ain't going nowhere. Shikon's just getting off the ground, but still lots to do. My thanks to everybody, and have a great day, great night, wherever you are, and God bless you. All right, take care, everybody.
Cheers.